Hello folks, I hope that you're having just a great day today. Today we're going to be taking a look at Wings in the Night. It was published in Weird Tales in 1932 by Robert E. Howard, and it's also in my collection of Solomon Kane that I've been reviewing for you and bringing to you for you. I'm going to try to bring to you one a week as I'm trying to unpack this collection. Now, I did say I was going to bring you every story, so I'm bringing you Wings in the Night. We'll talk about some of the reasons why it might be a little bit of a problematic story, but we'll go into that in great detail later on in my review of this story. But I love Solomon Kane. He's my second favorite hero of Robert Howard after Conan the Barbarian. You can read a lot more about who he is, my love, where that came from. I kind of unpacked that all for you in a video I'll link to you in the comments below so you can check that out for the context of Solomon Kane as the dour-faced Puritan, man who's dressed in black, the adventurer, the guy who tries to rid the world of evil, although he'll cross some moral lines sometimes in order to do so. So he's kind of a little bit of an anti-hero, if you will. And we saw that a lot in the previous story, The Dead, and with the Hills of the Dead. But now we're taking a look at Wings in the Night, which is the next story that I'm reviewing for you. And in this, we're definitely going to see him still cross some more ethical lines at times, although not as much as he did in the previous story. But we'll see, again, kind of see him become obsessed with a vengeance quest and then follow along with it. So we're going to basically, and this short story is a little bit more than 50 pages in my oversized collection, so it probably took me about an hour and a half total to read. I actually divided it into a couple of days and read it not in one sitting. And I've actually read it before, so this is the second time I read it, but I wanted to have it kind of fresh in my mind. So we'll take a quick look at it. So first I'm going to start with my synopsis. I'm just going to be very quick. Basically, this is actually set literally as one of the end scenes for the previous story I reviewed for you. He heads back out into the jungle, and this is kind of the next story in that. So this is what happens after he headed back out into the jungle seeking more adventure. So this is the more adventure that he's going to find. And he dedicates himself, months of his life he's going to dedicate to this quest for vengeance and removing an unholy curse that is happening in the nearby hills. So we'll take a look and see what's going on. So he's adventuring. He comes across a couple of things while he's out adventuring, giving you some world building, if you will. That shows where he's at. He's going to run across a guy who is on a stake that's been left out for somebody. He's going to hear the last dying words of that man. He'll also be attacked by a cannibal late at night, and the cannibal will be attacked by these flying creatures, and he's been alert to there are these flying creatures in the area, so he'll hide under a tree, and then after the night ends, and he leaves the tree. He's actually attacked during the day, which he thought probably wasn't going to happen. It seemed like they were attacking at night. He has to fend off and attack at day. He kills two of them, one with his pistol and another one with his knife, but the wounds he suffers, and he falls from the ground, really badly hurt him. And now he has to begin convalescing at a local village. And that's about a third of the way through the short story. So I'll go ahead and stop you there. I haven't done too many details on it. But who are the flying creatures? You'll find out a lot about them and where they come from and their sort of dark origins, if you will, and Solomon's quest thereof. Now, Solomon Kane probably has about half of his stories that Robert E. Howard writes take place in Africa. And this one is the worst story that's set in Africa. What do I mean by that? Well, Robert E. Howard was a writer of his day. And I do think it's important to have counter-narratives against sort of the mores of the day. And a lot of people who were writing in the pulp era during this day were very sexist or misogynist in their writings, including some female writers like Leah Brackett. But Robert E. Howard actually isn't. He's actually one of the few big names in the pulp era who's writing stories about women, like Valeria in the Conan stories, who's actually not one of the two archetypes of either the virgin or the whore. She's actually completely different. She's her own character. She can hold her own with Conan in the story where she's introduced. There are songs about her. She's incredibly she's just as powerful as Conan in fighting. She can hold him off. She has her song. So, Robert E. Howard has invested Valeria just as an example. So he is somebody who was, and he also was somebody who rooted for the common man and rooted for the underdog a lot in his writings against a lot of the sort of pulp narratives of the day. But not when it came to race. When it came to race, he had sort of the same lenses that a lot of people during his era had. And he would write about race a lot. It wasn't just, in an occasional story here and there between the lines. It's blatant at times. And in this story, It's blatant too. There is probably one of the worst examples of it in Robert E. Howard's writings for you. And I'm actually going to read it to you so you can kind of see where I'm coming from, where I say it. Now, it's about a paragraph in the short story, Wings in the Night. I want to get you a feel for where this is coming from, and particularly how bad it feels coming to it after World War II and after that narrative. So here we go. Kane stood, an unconscious statue. The ancient empires fall, the dark-skinned peoples fade, and even the demons of antiquity gasp their last. But over all stands the Aryan barbarian, white-skinned, cold-eyed, dominant, the supreme fighting man of the earth. Whether he be clad in wolf hide and horn helmet, or boots and doublet, whether he can bear in his hand battle axe or rapier, whether he be called Dorian, Saxon, or Englishman, whether his name be Jason, Hengist, or Solomon Kane. There you can kind of see this idea of Aryan superiority. Literally, it's not even like a subtext or something like that, like you might find in H.P. Lovecraft. It is blatant in this work about how Solomon Kane, it is not only is it a white savior narrative like most of the pulp era stuff that takes place in Africa is, it's a white person in Africa who's helping black people against the local problems. I mean, that is pretty much the common African narrative during the pulp era. But in addition to that, it also has this narrative right smack in the middle of it. Very obviously that Aryans are better. They're the best. They're the master race, which feels very, very bad post World War II. So it's important to understand and unpack Robert Howard and go into this story understanding that too. It's very, very well written though. It's kind of like, you go into some of these earlier works, seeing the racism, seeing the things that they had, because you want to appreciate the art that's behind it, but you also, again, do want to go into it with eyes wide open. And this aspect of Robert E. Howard has not aged well. His pro-female work has. This has not aged well at all for Robert E. Howard. So I do want to have you go in with eyes wide open. And if you decide you don't want to read it, that's fine. I'm not going to lose any sleep on it. But there you go. I'll link you to this collection in the comments below. I'll also find you. I think these are all on Project Gutenberg over in Australia, so I'll link you to that too. Robert E. Howard's works are sometimes in contention as to whether or not they are actually owned by Paradox Entertainment or not. But Australia's copyright law seems to think that that's not owned there, that's in the public domain. So you can typically find his works over there. And I believe all the Solomon Kane stuff is over there too. So I'll try to link you to that in the comments below. But there you are. Have you read Wings in the Night? What did you think of it? Did you agree or disagree with anything that I talked about in this video? I would be more than happy to engage you with it further in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please feel encouraged to hit that subscribe button because there's going to be a lot more of these to follow. And finally, I just want to thank you for taking some time out of your day and watching my video. We all have so many things that are happening in our lives, right? So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have a great day.